Greetings, Mark Gorang here, publisher of the Conway Daily Sun, and occasionally we profile local business people, and today we're chatting with Kim Hatch of Septic Turner. How you doing, Kim?
Good, how are you?
Good. You're a hockey player.
I am a hockey player.
And you came back from a big weekend of playing hockey?
Big weekend in Boston, yep.
Right,
St.
cool.
Patty's Day, party in Boston.
Good,
yep,
but you look pretty good for all that drinking.
A little bruising, but yeah, I did well with the tequila and electrolytes.
There we go. So, a quick background on how you get involved with Septic Turner, and particularly that not a lot of women in that occupation.
Yeah, there are very, very few women. My fiance, getting married in a few weeks, he saw that there was kind of a need in the valley for a little different way of doing septic and septic pumping. So we financed some vehicles together, and I went and got my septic inspector's license and my CDL, and I took off with it. There are very few, and probably we have a community on Facebook and some conferences that I go to, and there might be a handful of women that actually own, operate, and do the whole thing. A lot more women in the septic industry or the office staff or whatnot, the support staff, but not many are out there driving the truck and actually doing the pumping.
So you actually so you're there.
I am there.
You pull the plug.
I put
the tube in.
Yep.
The whole thing.
I go down in the hole. I take pictures to make sure things look good, videos. I am right there getting dirty with the guys.
So what a surprise, and how long have you been doing this?
We're going on our 4th summer.
Okay, so like what are your big surprises so far when you?
The lack of education about septic systems. Our little valley here is going on 40 or 50 years old, and we have a lot of second homeowners, a lot of young people buying houses, and when something happens to your front door or your roof, you know you need to fix it right away. People have no idea about their septics, none whatsoever. And so a lot of it is educating people and explaining them what they need to do, maintenance. There's an old theory that you never need to pump your septic tank. I've seen septic tanks that are 50 years old and you can stand on top of them. And we've stood on top of the content in the tank.
Oh gosh.
I
see. Okay,
yeah,
okay.
they're that solid. You literally stand on
Yeah.
it. They need to be maintained, and that's kind of one of the things when Graydon approached me about this is I wanted to educate people on what to do, not to do. Ask questions. Don't be afraid of it.
How often should a tank be pumped? I think people kind of do it like every 5 years.
The state of New Hampshire says every 2 to 3. And with the way the toilet papers we have and all the different body lotions and everything, it's more like 2 years.
So must be a rule of thumb if you have a family with 4 kids versus someone who's single.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, when I go out to pump it, I talk to the customer, the homeowner, and say, you know, how many people are in here? I have a couple customers that really like the thick, soft Cottonelle toilet paper. They actually get pumped once a year because it builds up in their tank and it can't go anywhere. So we get all that out so that their tank functions properly. So it's kind of having a conversation with them about what they do.
Do you know how many, because you know, some people are on, obviously the commercial people are on septic, on town water and sewer. Do you know how many residences are on septic in town? I mean, hundreds and hundreds.
Hundreds and hundreds, yeah. I'm not sure. I mean, last year we moved about 1.7 million gallons for just us. Some of the other bigger companies in town move about 2 million. So probably in the valley, there's a solid 6 million.
No pun intended.
Literally. Yeah, there's probably 5 or 6 million gallons.
And what about, because I know some of the short-term rentals are one to use all the time. I know one person who lives near my neighborhood who he gets pumped every month or every couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, do you find that situation?
I have some that are short-term rentals that I recommend like every 6 months, every 3 months. Again, it depends on how many people are using it, the age of the system. There's some systems that are just old and they need, if they're going to short-term rental, they need to pump it more often to keep it healthier longer.
I mean, do you have a sense of how many, because we know the old systems, and I live near Conway Lake, and mine's actually very old, but not as old as some. Some of them are literally railroad ties.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I was in one the other day it was built in the 1850s. It was old fieldstone and railroad ties and plywood, and that's what was holding it together.
So do they have when that happens, do they have a septic tank? There's a leach field. Do they have a leach field attached to that, or is that just like straight down and that's it?
That could be all that it is, or it could be a trenching system. Someone might have added on more to it. So sometimes you don't know. There can be surprises.
I mean, if you had to guess, like how many systems are compliant? Because obviously, if you do anything in your septic system or put a new house in, it has to be meet state standards now, which are pretty strict.
Yeah. Yep. You know, it's probably 50-50. There's a lot that are very old and they're still working properly, old cesspools. So probably 50-50 in the valley. the new stuff and old stuff.
And do you think I mean, what do you think about the new ones? Because the new ones, oftentimes, if they're near wet areas, they have to be raised, right?
Yep.
So do you know specifically, like, how much, what that level is, how much fill they have to put in, or is it just dependent on the certain location?
So when someone comes in, they need a septic design first before they can do anything. And one of the designers in the valley will do a design, and they do what they call a percolation test, and they'll see what the water level is in the ground, and that'll define how high the bed needs to be when they do a raised bed.
So the idea is to just keep it out of the groundwater?
Yeah. Yep.
And then even for old systems, I mean, if old systems, they just leak into the groundwater.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the way it works.
Yeah, they just dug a hole and put some stone or some concrete blocks in there, and it just slowly percolates out.
Yeah, I remember on the West Side Road at Intervale Acres over there, they would have, gosh, I can remember going over there years ago, and it'd be like a 55-gallon
A drum.
drum
Yeah.
with a pickaxe, holes in the side of it,
Yeah.
and that was it.
And there's still some of those around here. Old drums, old anything. Yeah, there's a variety of stuff here. It's old. A lot of these old farmhouses that, now more bigger families are coming in to live in them, or they're short-term renting them, or so they're 40 or 50 years old. They need a little love.
And so what do you do with all this stuff that you have in the tank?
So everybody that's commercially hooked up to the city sewer, it all goes to the water precinct, which is behind EMS
Right.
in North Conway. We also take it there. So that's where we dump all our waste, and they process it.
And so does this town, because that's all town of Conway,
Yep.
and now it's all integrated with Conway Village, right?
Yep.
And it is it's a tertiary system. I think it's like really one of the best treatment plants in the country.
Yeah, when they built that, they put a lot of thought and work into it, and as our valley grows, it's ready to expand with us. So that was one of the concerns last summer was it ready for all this growth? And there was some hiccups, but they are definitely ready for it now. They've got the machines, and they're ready to keep more gallonage bringing in and to accommodate the valley. So
their growth, I mean, you only bring in, you don't take water out.
No.
So their growth, when they say they had to prepare for more growth, are they preparing to take more sewage septage in, or are they preparing to draw more water out?
more septage in.
It is.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And there's also, we also have one of the last fields for field spreading in the state of New Hampshire, and that's slowly going to be coming to an end too. So our water precinct will get a lot more where we take the waste.
And I was going to ask about that, because that was always a little bit controversial,
Yeah.
where there's kind of like toilet paper among the corn stalk stubs and
Yeah,
stuff.
exactly.
So you said there's one, do you want to say, where is that field?
It's on West Side Road.
Okay, so it is like a cornfield?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's one of the last in the state, and the DES, the Department of Environmental Services, monitors it and keeps an eye on it, but it's just the ground gets so saturated it can only take so much. So Maine no longer does field spreading, and we'll shortly be there right behind them.
And so the idea of not allowing anybody to do it anymore is just because of the general concerns about sanitary conditions?
Yeah, and just all the stuff we put into our septic systems. There's feminine hygiene products. We dump everything from food scraps to everything down there. So and the soil just can't take it anymore. It's done it for a lot of years.
So do you think that it's because of the soil can't take it anymore? Or do you think it's just people, I mean, that was an old school way of doing stuff.
Yeah, it's a combination of both, and
Yeah.
just our growth as society. And the water precinct does a great job of rejuvenating it. They make fresh water out of it when we put it there, and they also take and they make these like flakes of hay that they take up to the dump, and they spread it over the dump to fertilize
really?
it. Yeah, so they do a great job of turning waste into a good new product.
That's pretty cool.
Yep.
So how about some do's and don'ts if you have a septic system?
Oh gosh, do's. There's the 3 P's.
The 3 P's?
The 3 P's.
Uh-oh.
Pee, poop, and paper.
Ah.
Nothing else should really go in your septic system. We don't want, unfortunately, Rid-X is a great name, but Rid-X is horrible for your tank. It kills your septic tank.
Okay, so how does it kill your septic tank? Because the septic tanks work on bacteria, right?
Exactly.
So explain that if you could.
So the top of your septic tank is what we call the scum layer. That's the healthy bacteria. It allows your septic tank to function. When you put a product like Rid-X in there, it actually breaks that bacteria down and makes it all settle to the bottom.
So the Rid-X, that really cleans your pipes.
Yeah.
Is that the idea, like you have a drain problem?
Yeah.
So does that hold true for liquid plumber and all that kind of stuff too?
They're not as bad. I mean, you don't want to use a ton of chemicals. We have some houses that they do laundry in their house instead of a laundromat. They're a house cleaner for town. They use so much bleach, it kills the bacteria in their tank.
Okay.
If you're using Rid-X, it's a quick fix. I hear gurgling in my I heard gurgling in the toilet. I'm going to get me through the night, but I need to call Kim in the morning because there's something not right here.
Okay.
So it's a quick fix, but every time Riddex says use it once a month. Well, if you put that in there once a month, you're constantly killing your bacteria and it's settling to the bottom of the tank. So now the sludge layer, which is at the bottom, is getting higher and higher and taking up capacity in your tank. So it's making the whole system not work properly.
Okay, so explain, I cut you off there.
It's okay.
So the top of it is the what layer?
The scum layer.
The scum layer,
Scum
not
layer.
as opposed to the sludge layer.
Yep.
So we got your scum, we got your sludge.
Yep.
What's in the middle? Slurry?
Your effluent.
Oh.
So it's just your kind of gray water.
Okay.
Is in the middle. So yeah, the scum on the top takes care of all the good bacteria, makes your tank function, breaks down waste when it comes in. Your effluent in the middle, and all the sludge, all the stuff that settles to the bottom.
And that's what you take out.
So when we go in and pump it all out. We mix it up. We make sure we get everything in there. We leave just a little bit so the bacteria can regrow. We're not making the tank bare and not have any bacteria.
Okay.
So we go in, we take everything out. There's baffles in there which help push solids to the bottom of the tank and help keep those solids from going to the leach field. We check those to make sure they're attached. So we do, when we pump, I'm a licensed septic inspector, but when we pump, we go in and just do kind of a mini inspection. We pump it, but we mini inspect the tank too to make sure things are looking good.
Yeah. And then when you say those baffles, and I know very little about septic systems, I will say.
It's okay.
But that's why we have professionals like you. Exactly, right? And professional hockey players
Yep.
like you. Yeah, okay. But then you have the leach field. So in the normal occurrence of how that works, the sludge goes to the bottom, bacteria eats away at stuff, and then the water just goes through the baffle into pipes, kind of mostly, unless you have a raised system, it's a gravity fed to a leach field, and that water goes into the ground.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So just the regular water, the gray water.
That effluent that's in the middle.
Right.
So when you flush the toilet, it goes up a little bit trickles into your leach field.
And what about, what about detergents? Like you were talking about washing machine detergents. Are they good and bad that you would recommend?
You know, it's hard. I talk to customers and I think they're pouring grease down their sinks and whatnot. And we're finding that some of these dishwasher tablets, it's actually forming soap scum balls in the tanks. There's no real way around it. It's what's out there on the market. You can hand wash stuff, but you know, I have a customer who runs 4 loads of wash a day in her dishwasher. She had some soap balls in her tank because they're using so much detergent.
So is it dishwashing that's bad or the washing machines?
Dishwashing mostly.
Really?
Yep. That granulated powdered tablet stuff just doesn't break down well in tanks. But again, it comes to, if you're going to use those things, just maintenance your tank. They're pretty simple.
Right.
You know, septic systems are really complicated, but really simple too. It's like your car. If you're going to go on a long drive, you're going to maintenance the oil, change it before you go for a drive. If you're going to have a major Christmas party,
pump it.
Pump it. Yeah. If it's been 2 years, just pump it. Make sure things are looking good.
So do people call you when they just have trouble with their tanks, like I mean, you're not a plumber.
Right.
So, like, why would they call you instead of a plumber if their toilet backs up, or do they call you? Do you get those kind of calls?
I do, and I work closely with a lot of the plumbers. I've gotten a great relationship with the plumbers in town because the plumbers will want the septic tank checked first, because that could be why the toilet's backing up. I get there, pump it, I either relieve the clog, or I'm like, you got to call a plumber. This is this is between the house and the tank. So we kind of work hand in hand. And people aren't sure. They don't know. So it's great having working relationships with other workers and plumbers in town. That way we can work together and say, hey, I've got this issue. Can you get here? Tank's open and ready. Makes their life easier too.
Now, most of the, like with my house, because I have an old house, my septic tank is buried so that when I get it pumped out, I have to basically remove some lawn. Like it's like 5 inches underneath, and I have to, I got it marked out where it is, so I remember every 4 or 5 years where the heck it is, and I take a pick and I find it, and there's some boards on top, like it's old school stuff. Now, is that the common way of doing it? You find that often, or is it people have it well marked? For the new systems, is there a raised spout, or how does that work?
By state code, they should put what they call a riser on it. So it's just a plastic tube with a green cover, so it looks like your lawn, and that way you can see it. New systems that are being installed. I also install risers because sometimes we find tanks that are 1 foot deep, 2 feet. We've had tanks that were 6 feet deep, and we've put risers on them because there's no way to access it.
So if someone calls you, like myself, and I know that I do my own digging because this pumper's not going to do that. But do you ask people to do that so it's prepared so you can get to it? You're not out there with a shovel and pick and trying to find somebody's septic system.
We are. Yep. about half the time we're out there looking for them because they either have no idea, and we go around and probe or pick. You know, we feel the ground and we kind of know what a concrete tank feels like. And if we can't find it the old school way, we have tablets that we flush with like a 512 megahertz toner, and it tells us where the tank is. It flushes down into the tank.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, high tech.
Yeah, high tech.
Yeah. All right. So lastly, like, what are the coolest things you found in a septic tank?
Oh gosh.
Or the most interesting?
A diamond ring.
Now, how do you even find that?
They had flushed it, or accidentally flushed it. I don't know the whole story behind it, but we managed to put some towels underneath it, and they flushed the toilet, and we got it out when it came out. They weren't sure if it had made it into the tank or not, but we found it.
Huh.
We found cell phones, wiffle balls, silverware, cars, tons of toys. Yeah, it never ceases to amaze me what we find down there, or how they got it down there.
Yeah, but you don't look unless someone alerts you to it, right?
The cell phone, had no idea.
And how did you find it? I mean, it just comes
We were
through
just
the poop.
pumping down, and something clogged on the end of our hose, and we pulled it out.
Because you have a screen on the end.
Sometimes we use a screen, sometimes we call it a stinger. It's like it helps us angle it to get more corners of the tank. It got stuck at the bottom of it.
Well, good. Kim, it's pretty interesting stuff.
It's an interesting business.
And I appreciate you coming in, and good luck with it. And I hope you encourage other women or anybody, but it is kind of a man's gig so far. Yeah,
it totally is. But I have a community of women that do it, that we talk together. I met a girl out in Indianapolis at the WET show, it's a wastewater conference.
Nice.
I met her out there, and we've become friends. She lives down in Virginia. So there's not many of us, but we're a good group.
Good. Kim, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.